Welcome, dear listeners, to the Right Here, Right Queer podcast. Today I am joined by David Slayton. Welcome.
Thanks for having me today.
So, you have quite a few books under your belt. I have read Dark Moon, Shallow Sea. It was really amazing. Which book are you excited to talk about today?
Well, I love them all. So they're like your kids, right? I don't know. I think the one that's on my mind the most lately is Rogue Community College. It's my queer magic school for everyone, and it's a magical community college. So it's kind of the one that's been on my mind. With the events in the world lately, I've been thinking a lot more about that book. It came out last year. Though you'll be happy to know that the sequel to Dark Moon, Shallow Sea, The Silent Paths of Night, is out on June 9th, 2026.
It's such a beautiful cover, and it's such a vibe shift from the first one, too.
I love this book. I feel like I leveled up a bit, and I try to level up with every book that I write. Every time I write a new book, I try to put more and more of myself into it and try to really push myself to be a better writer. I think Silent Paths has the best prose that I've written. I think it has the best writing wise that I've done.
Before we dive into that one, Rogue Community College, that's like a spin-off from the Adam Binder series, right?
It is. It's kind of the angel to the Buffy, as it were. It's about a reluctant assassin who is sent undercover at the elves' new magic school to destroy it from within. And while he's there, he realizes A, the place is alive, and how do you assassinate a building? And then B, he starts to catch feels for another student, which complicates his mission. And that adds layers because if he doesn't accomplish what he's sent to do there, destroy the place, the Undertaker, the head of the assassins who sent him to destroy the place, if Isaac doesn't get it done, the Undertaker will send somebody much worse to finish the job.
I like the idea of how do you assassinate a place. That's a really interesting concept.
It's also got my widest array of queer representation. We have our awesome trans librarian, Jack, who's a technopath, and he's got his girlfriend, Daffodil. She's like your kind of your standard cheerleader type. She's very like upbeat and bubbly, but any touch from her is poison. But Jack's made of metal, so he doesn't care.
Oh,
And it's got an asexual love interest for Isaac and Bran. So it has like all this wonderful just kind of mix of people. And it really had fun, particularly with the professors and the teachers. Two of them are in a relationship. They're an older lesbian couple. And so there's just like this fun mix of everybody. And one of the things I did with it is because it's a community college, not everybody is, 18 straight out of high school. Some of them are a little bit older. Some of them have had different experiences in life. And I appreciated getting to write that.
I love that. I am a big fan of the whole later in life kind of thing. So that's really exciting. Are there any cameos from the Binder series that show up here?
Oh, yeah, a couple of big ones. Argent, the Elven Queen of Swords, who is a kind of a fan favorite character, acts as a faculty advisor and gets to take the students on a field trip to a Ren fair.
Oh, I want to go to this college.
She gets to cut loose too, which we in the Adam series we've heard so much about how she's so tough and what a badass she is, but we don't really get to see that often. So in RCC she gets to cut loose, and then Adam does show up towards the end as well for a cameo. Oh, and Silver, also from the Adam series, the Elven King. So yeah, there's some crossover. If you like the Adam series, you'll definitely recognize some people, and if you haven't read the Adam series, RCC does stand on its own, so you won't be lost if you haven't.
That's cool. And sounds like they're kind of similar vibes. Was it different going from this to the Dark Moon, Shallow Sea? Like, did you enjoy getting to write something a little bit different, a little bit darker?
Definitely. Dark Moon is high fantasy too. And I always thought of myself as a high fantasy writer. I always wanted to write epic or high fantasy. I only started writing urban, started writing White Trash Warlock because I couldn't sell anything and my agent and I were kind of getting frustrated. So I was starting to burn out on writing. I was starting to not enjoy it. So I sat down and said, you know what, I'm just going to write something for me. And I wrote White Trash Warlock. And that somehow ended up being the first thing that I ever sold. But I wrote Dark Moon first years ago. And it's funny how, everyone's like, oh, you're an urban fantasy writer. I'm like, but I never thought of myself that way.
Yeah.
So I kind of got a little bit lumped into a box there. It was nice to finally get to publish Dark Moon and, kind of like, look, I can do this in this space over here too. I have a different kind of voice that I can write with. And Dark Moon won the Colorado Book Award, which is kind of a literary style award. Like it's a little more, literary. It's just like the vindication I felt when that happened It's pretty epic.
It just needed to wait for its time to shine.
And I fully have come to believe that every book will have its day, as it were, but it's sort of as a matter of, the right time.
Just because it's not right now doesn't mean it's not good. It's just not right now.
I teach a lot of writing workshops and speak at a lot of writing conferences, and that's one thing that I constantly have to tell people. It's like, doesn't mean your book's bad, it just might not be the right time for it.
So, with the Silent Paths, I feel like so much happened in the first book, and there's so many different characters. It's been a minute since I've read it, but kind of refresh me on where we're going with this one.
Sure. So in Dark Moon, Shallow Sea, it's really Rafe's story. Rafe is the last worshiper of the moon goddess. And when she gets murdered 10 years before the book starts, it stops the tides, it darkens the night sky, and most damaging, it leaves the ghosts of the dead without a path to the underworld. So Rafe has been living on the streets as a thief. He wants payback on the sun worshippers who killed his goddess, the moon. And so he breaks into their temple late at night to open a box. And he knows it'll probably be a corpse, but he thinks there might be gold or jewels, something he can hawk, something he can get a little payback with. Instead, he finds another guy, Kinos, alive, sleeping inside the box. Wanting to know why Kinos is in the box, Rafe steals him. So Dark Moon Shallow Sea is really the story of how Rafe and Kinos uncover the mystery of why Kinos is in the box, and then we start to get into the divine politics of why the moon goddess was killed, and all the complicated world politics that kind of comes from that begin to sneak up just a little bit. But it's more about the religious mystery. And the second point of view is from a young, eager, but very damaged Knight of the Sun named Seth, who everybody I think has just fallen very much in love with. I know that I did. I originally created him to be very much a villain. He was going to be kind of a stereotypical bad guy.
Oh, I can't even imagine that. He's such a sweet,
I know.
the little naive guy, but I love him.
I know, and that's what happened to me as I was writing him. He started to come alive, and I started to fall a little bit in love with him, and I'm like, and he sort of became the second point of view good guy. So, Silent Paths of Night is really Seth's book. I'm trying not to give too many spoilers for people who haven't read the first one. But at the end of the first book, the big mystery is solved, things go down, and Seth and Rafe both do survive it. And Silent Paths of Night really picks up. There's a lot of questions still about who Seth is, what his background is, his history. And Silent Paths of Night is really his book. We're going to find out a lot more about Seth. We're going to find out his origins, and he's going to get the chance to kind of explore what it means to be in the world and life. Because his faith was very shaken by the events in Dark Moon, his faith in Hyperion, the sun god. And this gives him a chance to sort of ask more questions about his faith, about who he wants to be, and what kind of man he wants to become as he grows. That was the best I could do without spoiling anything.
I am grinning ear to ear. That was perfect. And it really does kind of explain the cover vibe shift. It definitely screams more Seth. Since you kind of envisioned him a different way when you first started writing, did you envision the sequel being a little bit different, or did you not really have a sequel in mind when you first started writing it?
I started it so long ago. I always saw it as a trilogy or at least a duology. One mistake I think that I made is because it was supposed to be my first book. Dark Moon, Shallow Sea is sort of short. It's only 100,000 words. A lot goes down in that 100,000 words. And I like that. I don't like it when epic fantasy or high fantasy drags out too long. But I do wish I had taken a little more time, maybe given it like 20,000 more words or so, and slowed it down a little bit. If I had known I was going to get more books, I probably also would have ended the plot sooner, even though I would have given you a little bit more of things. This is how it is, though. You're always looking backwards and saying, what would I do different? Like, I haven't even read White Trash Warlock now in 3 or 4 years, and I don't know if I could. I think I would probably, because it was my first book and it came out over 5 years ago now. I think I would probably be like, oh no, this is garbage. Like, all this is wrong. I'd probably want to, make all these changes. And so with Dark Moon, I think I would have slowed my roll just a little bit on the plot and just given you more time in the world and more time in the book. But that's one thing I do like about it is that it's only 100,000 words. So, you're not in for months of reading here if you pick that book up.
I can see what you're saying. I personally enjoy it when you kind of get thrown into it. So, do you think the second one will be a lot longer then?
It's the same length.
Nice.
They're basically, I'm looking at a trilogy of a total of 300,000 words. So next time I do an epic or high fantasy, I'm going to see if I can draw it out a little bit more. But part of what happens in publishing is word count is money. in traditional publishing, especially where I'm at, which means that it's more paper, it's more ink, it's heavier shipping weight, it's more pixels, it's more time for the audio narrator. So, like I said, it's designed to be a first book. It wasn't, I didn't want to make the word count too high because I didn't want a publisher to say, oh, no, this is too long. We can't publish this. And since it was written that way, I kept it brief. But with Silent Paths, I kind of did what I wish I had done with Moon, which is I stop at a point where I still have more to do. I still have more to tell you in the third book. Because now I'm pretty confident that I will get the third.
I hope so. What has the author experience been like for you? You're a full-time writer now, right?
Yeah, I have been for almost a year now. I quit my day job in April or May of last year, 2025. It's been amazing. At the same time, I was surprised how much not having the day job structure has messed with my discipline. There's nobody telling me to get up, get to work. I'm not going to get a ping from Teams or on my. No one's going to call me if I'm missing a meeting. So it's a weird shift. But I did write 3 books last year, so I do think I'm using the time. And this year, I'm working on really trying to make sure that I focus my energy on treating it like a job. So I'm getting up early. I'm treating it like a day job, right? I'm like, okay, I'm going to make my coffee, warm up my brain, and then write for 8 hours, take an hour-long lunch. So I'm really trying to create a schedule and a structure for myself so I don't just drift off into video games or reading or something.
The muses become awfully quiet when you actually have time to write.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. And I have a few friends who are in the same boat, and we've compared notes on like, why? Because you don't have anyone yelling at you. So luckily I do have some deadlines with my agent. So I do have somebody who's kind of yelling at me or, not afraid to ping me. They're like, hey, where is that thing? So it's important to try to cultivate a schedule and cultivate a discipline around when you write and how you write.
So what motivates you then? What keeps you going?
The main thing for me is I go out into the world and I'm looking for a book that I want to read and I can't find it. And that seems so simple, but it's true. And that usually comes down to, we've talked about I write urban fantasy and high fantasy so far. I'm finishing up what could probably be called a comedic paranormal romance. I'm working on something that's horror based too. And the thing is, I grew up in rural Oklahoma in a time when there were books with zero LGBTQ representation at all. It just wasn't there. So high fantasy particularly was an area that just you didn't have any kind of diversity inside of it. So going out and reading these books and falling in love with this genre, I couldn't find anybody like me on the page. So that's why I started writing. It's like, I want to read a book that's about somebody who is like me, somebody with my background. That's probably one of the most rewarding things about where I am now in my career. Like I had a Barnes and Noble event in Colorado Springs this weekend. You sit there and do the table thing and people walk up and you tell them about your book. And I had a couple of people come who had read my books and were like, oh, thank you so much for writing this, for writing books about people like us. And it's just really nice to be able to put that into the world. And that's exactly how I got White Trash Warlock. I love urban fantasy, but you just can't find it. You can find some paranormal romance, but you couldn't find anything that was true urban fantasy with a gay protagonist. Katie Edwards, the tarot sequence, his first book, The Last Sun, beat me by about a year. Really good book, by the way. Really great guy.
Oh, I love them.
And he was kind enough to blurb Warlock, which meant the world because, again, he kind of was sort of pioneering that space. But it's just sort of annoying when you're like, I really just want to read this kind of book, but I can't find it. So every time I'm trying to write a book, it's usually because I can't find that book on the shelf. It's like, okay, fine, I'll go read it.
That's beautiful, and it's gonna be so rewarding, to hear that from readers, like, it's very validating, because you want the stories for you, but eventually they do end up in readers' hands, and to see what they do with it and how they feel about it, that's gotta feel pretty good.
It does. And it's also, I think, more important, especially right now, because we are seeing a lot more with book bans. We're seeing with a lot of publishers and media reducing their diversity. They're scared of having diversity right now. They're scared of the blowback they might get politically. So you're seeing a lot of pullback on those initiatives or attempts to bring out more diverse voices. So for me, it's like, I want to make sure that readers have those books.
Are there any stories out there now or in the past that have inspired you? Like any treasures you were able to find?
My whole goal is to make you laugh and cry in the same book. So I'm always looking for authors who can make you think, but also maybe make you laugh. So some of the people who really show me how to do that is like Gail Carriger, for example. If you've ever read her stuff, her Parasol Protectorate series is beautiful. And again, it's diverse and fun, and it will make you laugh, and will also just kind of pull at your heartstrings. I really love Cale Dietrich. He writes such great high concept. He really started out in YA. I think he's kind of moved more to new adult. I got to blurb his most recent, which was My Roommate from Hell, about a guy going to college, and it turns out that his dorm mate is the inconsiderate Prince of Hell. So
Darn.
I know it's a very there's a whole fake dating and and the dorm mate is allergic to shirts and it's just great. It's a very fun read and I highly recommend it. But yeah, so I'm always looking for authors that I can't ever find anything that's like quite what I do, which is nice. Like I fill a certain niche. But like we mentioned Katie Edwards, it's always nice if I can find something that's adjacent to me.
That's what I usually think of you both, you and Katie, kind of, like you say, adjacent. Like one makes me think of the other, but you're so different at the same time.
His stuff is more like an action movie, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, but you've got, the characters in the relationship and the found family kind of going too for you.
Yeah, we both write the heroine's journey. We both write found family. Adam and Rune are both building their little misfit family, and it's building up quickly. I got to really move that forward with Redneck Revenant, the latest in the Adam series. You really see how he's built this group of people around him who support him, and he's no longer all on his own. And I love that. And you see that with Keith, with what he's done with by the end of the Hourglass Throne. You really see that he's put together a crew.
Plus, the series come in nice because you can see that arc and take it slow over multiple books.
It also just gives you more toys in the box to play with. So, we can check in with Adam's cousin Jody from time to time. We can see Vran and what happens with him in Rogue Community College when he spins off into his own series. It gives me the chance to check in with characters. And in every book that I release, I get a oh no, we didn't get to see Jesse in Debbie Druid. People will ask about. It's like I was like, how's Jesse and his dog Chaos? We didn't see them in this book. It's always nice to when you feel like they've come alive for readers. Like, man, I needed more time with that character. It's like it's always a plus. And my editor is great because he'll always be like, "There's not enough Argent. I need more Argent in this book."
That's beautiful. So, are there things that themes that you revisit or anything you come back to in your writing?
I'm starting to move beyond some of them because one thing I don't want to do is be writing the same book over and over again for the rest of my life. And, we can all probably think of authors who do that, right? They really only have one story and they don't vary from it much. But I do, found families is probably a really important one. Healing from the past is probably the largest. You really see that with both Adam, Rafe, Seth. You see that with Isaac. All of my main characters have that kind of one thread of the past can hurt us, even if we don't necessarily know about it, right? Even if we don't really know what our past is or we don't know what our family has done, it can hurt us. So the past always comes back to haunt you. I think that's a pretty common Slayton theme. I always write characters who are a little broken in some way because I think they're more interesting. My friend Liv, who's also a writer, says characters are like glow sticks. You need to snap them in order for them to shine.
Yep, I like that.
And I think that's very true. One of the things I often write in response to a genre or write in response to something. One of the things I don't like in urban fantasy, you often get a character who is too powerful, too perfect. Like it's almost like a male power fantasy. And so they come onto the page and they're, striding around, throwing fireballs and beating everybody up. They're not challenged by the book at all because they're too powerful. You can see how Adam is very much a direct response to that. He walks onto the page and he's terrified of everything because he has so little power. And Rafe is kind of the same thing, especially when he starts out. He doesn't have, and Seth too, none of them have necessarily great power. Instead, they have to use what they've got and grow inside of it. Silent Paths of Night definitely reverses that. You see Rafe and Seth both get to level up, but that comes with its own risks and comes with its own problems. I always believe magic should have a cost, whether it comes from the gods or if it's innate to you or not. So yeah, those are probably my most common themes is magic has a cost. I do write heroes. My main characters will always do the right thing, generally even at great personal cost. You see that mostly with Adam, to a degree with Rafe, who's driven a lot by curiosity as well as his motivation for revenge. Isaac is probably the one who's the biggest outlier of that, mostly because he's still growing and he has time. In Rogue Community College, he has to spend a lot of time figuring out what is the right thing. What should he do?
And characters are people, and people are flawed. They're not perfect. And I definitely agree with you, and I prefer when they read that way. Otherwise, it's a power trip and it's boring. Give me broken people, like give me the glow stick, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. If you've ever played like Dungeons and Dragons, you've probably played with this person. I've had that player where they're like, I can do everything. I don't really need a team. I can open every lock or beat every enemy, and I have all the abilities. They've min-maxed their character in this way that they're not interesting. They're not able to be hurt. And especially in fiction, it's like, that's so boring.
So we've touched a little bit about why you like fantasy. You lean more towards the high or epic fantasy, and now you're in the urban. What drew you to that? Have you always been a fantasy person?
It's funny. Since I grew up in Oklahoma, when and where I did, fantasy was kind of rare and hard to get a hold of. And I had a very religious mom. My mom went very religious for a while. So she was like, oh, we can't have anything but magic. So I was actually much more of a sci fi kid, like Star Wars and Doctor Who and Star Trek. So it's kind of weird that I write fantasy about sci fi. But I think when you ultimately look at Star Wars, it's space opera. It really is more fantasy than science fiction, despite its setting. So I think that'd be one thing. Like if my parents were still alive, they'd probably be scratching their heads like, I thought he would write, sci-fi. Why is he writing fantasy? That's very weird.
Do you think you ever will write some sci-fi?
I don't know if I'll write a sci-fi just because I really feel like it does have to be driven by science and my knowledge in that area is so thin. I do have some friends who are incredibly like, one's a professor, one has two PhDs. And so I do have access to some experts in science into various areas. I do have a space opera that I started writing a while back, and my agent and I just haven't found like a home for it or found like anywhere we could sell it. And I may look at it as a graphic novel. I think it'd be really cool to have my artist friend Jake Shandy who does all my promo art for my stuff. If you've seen any of my character portraits online, that's Jake. He's done some cool webcomic stuff. So I'd love to collaborate with him on a space opera graphic novel. Got a few deadlines and things already cooking, so I have to also figure out if what his availability is. But that's something I'd love to do is either write that as a book or as a graphic novel. I have a big plan of it. It's very Mass Effect meets Star Wars, so it's kind of this big scale, post-war story, and then conspiracies, and it's got again found family. I know you're shocked.
The queer experience at its core.
Yeah, pretty much. I know you're surprised to see that theme return. But yeah, I have some plans around that I'd love to bring to fruition one day.
I have some Jake Shandy art that you sent with the Dark Moon Shallow Sea book, and I really loved you working with artists, indie artists, human artists. Do you think that's something you'll do for the next one as well, or is that kind of like a one-off, got lucky to do it kind of thing?
Oh no, I'll definitely be working with Jake probably for every book. He's done art for all of my recent releases, Rogue Community College, Redneck Revenant. And I usually do a pre-order campaign that if you order through a certain indie bookstore, and Books Are Awesome, which is here in Colorado in Parker, and if you pre-order through them on their website, and if you go to any of my social medias, you'll see it pinned and accessible. You'll get a copy of the book personalized as well as I'll send character cards or Jake's art along with it. He also designed the metal bookmark for Dark Moon, Brave's Dagger, which is really cool.
I did not know that. I love that dagger.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, Jake designed that for me too. And I found an awesome company online that does metal business cards. I'm like, can you make it knife shaped? And they're like, as long as we don't make the edges sharp.
Just don't go stabbing anyone with it.
I will tell you this, the best thing about working with Jake is, so if you're part of his Patreon or part of his like webcomic stuff, he draws his men so beefy. Like they're just these giant muscles and everything. And I always have to ask him, like, can we turn it down just a notch?
Yeah.
There's a really great one I had him do for Pride a couple of years ago. It's Adam and Vic on a beach, and Vic is like on his stomach on top of Adam. They're about to kiss. And he actually put the video online on TikTok. It was so cute because I was like, Vic's butt looks like a big old basketball. Can we turn the cake down just a notch? And you can see in the video, you can actually watch it deflate.
That's awesome. We're in a Discord together for the tarot sequence, so I get to see some of the art as it's made of Brand and Rune and Adam, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
It's great. And I love human artists, for that reason.
I'll never do anything with AI.
Yeah.
Never. I'll fight tooth and nail to keep my covers and voice artists, everything away from AI. And I will never personally ever do anything with AI for promo, or I just won't. It's not that expensive, and because I don't want AI writing books. Why would I take that money away from either my voice artists or my audiobooks or from my cover artists or promo artists?
All our listeners are fist bumping right now, going, yes.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. But that's one place where I'm like, come on, bubble pop.
Yeah, I am here with the needle ready to pop it. So, we kind of talked a little bit about, what motivates you, kind of ties into what you hope to accomplish with your stories. Is there anything else that you're hoping with your author journey to accomplish?
I think it's a bigger answer than it sounds like. I really hope that people are entertained. Life is hard right now for so many people. And I think that if I can help you smile, or I can help you just have a slightly better day, provide you with some escape, or maybe give you something to think about that's a little bit different than what you're going through, then that's part of my job. I feel like that's something that I can offer my readers, something I can offer people. When it comes to what I write, I kind of have my mission, right? I want to write the books I could never find to read. But when it comes to what readers get out of it, I hope to provide you with a little escape. I hope to help you feel something. And I just hope I can make your day a little bit better.
There's the discussion going around right now, like how can anybody read or do art or do creative things right now? Like it's so hard. And I think that right there in a nutshell is it, because we all need a little something to keep us going.
That's honestly been what has kept me going recently, is getting emails and messages from readers, or if I see somebody at an event and they tell me how much they loved my book or how much it helped them. Mark Twain had something where he said something like, I could live on a compliment for a week, 2 weeks. And I feel like that's how I feel when somebody says, thank you so much for writing this. Thank you for writing about people like us. Like, okay, I have a function, I have a purpose in doing this that is beyond me. It's helping people. So I got to keep doing it.
Oh, we've got the mushy stuff down. Now I have the really hard question here for you.
Hit me.
Favorite book you've written?
Oh man. Again, that's like asking me to choose which of my kids is my favorite. My personal favorite is Dark Moon, Shallow Sea, because I started it so long ago and it meant so much to me when I first started. It was the first book I wrote that I was like, I love this book. It's the one I cried myself to sleep at night about. I couldn't sell it. I couldn't get a publisher, couldn't get an agent for it. And then I finally got an agent, and then they couldn't sell it. Even after Warlock was doing well and I had the 3-book deal for the initial Warlock trilogy, I was like, I still couldn't sell Moon. And I was in tears about it still, because like this, I love this book so much and I just want it to happen again. So when it won the Colorado Book Award and I'm in front of on a banquet in front of 200 people, I had a crying sort of meltdown. I had a whole Sally Field, you like me, you really like me moment. It's somewhere on YouTube.
Oh gosh.
It's like, okay, the vindication of the validation. It's like, I can do this. This book does matter to some people. Some people get what I'm trying to do here. Like it's probably my favorite of my kids.
The real trust your gut moment, your gut said this is the book, and it is.
And that's something else I tell young writers or aspiring writers at conferences and stuff. It's like, yes, you need to be able to take feedback. Yes, you need to be able to take input. Like if something's not working, listen to that editor, listen to that agent. But at the same time, if you believe in this book and you feel it, don't give up on it, because it will have its time.
That is really so true.
Yeah, I wanted to give up on that book so many times, but it just wouldn't let me, and I wouldn't let me. And I'm so glad that I didn't.
Before we move farther to advice, I gotta ask the next hard one because I am curious if it's. Do you have a favorite character? Is it from Moon or is it from a different book?
They're all similar to me. I think Vran might be my favorite. He shows up first in Deadbeat Druid, and then he transfers over to Rogue Community College. And you will see more of him again. Spoiler alert. But I just love him. And he's this little idea that every time I'm writing a book, when I used to be writing back in the day before I was published, every book I would write, he would pop up and be like, am I on yet? Is it my book yet? And I'm like, nope, go away. It's, you don't fit in Dark Moon. Go away. You don't fit in this Ghost Dragon, the first book that we almost sold. All these other books, and then even in White Trash Warlock, and finally in Trailer Park Trickster, he showed up, and I'm like, now, okay, you're on.
Spotlight's ready.
I don't know if favorite is the right word, but the little twerp has haunted me so much that it was so nice to finally get to put him on the page and get him out of my head, because he had bugged me for so long before he actually got written.
I love that. He may not be my favorite, but he's bothered me the most, so we better give him the microphone for a minute.
Yeah, and there are parts of me in all of them. Rafe is my younger, angrier self. I like to call him my feral firstborn since I wrote him first. And it was so nice when he finally moved out of the basement of my brain and started paying rent. Adam is my younger self, but he's much better than I am, so he's kind of my golden boy. You know, he's the better version of my younger self in so many ways. And he also has so much of my background. We're both from Guthrie, we're both high school dropouts, we're both gay, you know, we have all these things. We both grew up in a trailer. I gave Adam a little too much of my own self, so he became, in some ways, he's like this little brother. And then Seth has so much of what I wish the world was. Like he sees the world through this almost naive, hopeful eye, which is of course really tragic when things go dark for him because you know he's got to deal with so much of that getting broken. But I don't know, it rotates around. But I think Vran is the one that haunts me the most. But I do love them all, even the villains.
Without the villains, we can't have a hero, so it makes sense.
Well, and I try to give you understanding with the villain. So they're, you know, they might be evil or they might be a jerk, but almost all of my villains, if you look at them the right way, you can be like, okay, they're obviously a bad person, but I can understand why they did what they did.
Oh, those are the best.
Yeah, we're all human, and the villains are human. And I think the best villains are the ones where you're like, you know, it's like Magneto, right? There's a level of
Yeah.
maybe the wrong approach, but maybe not completely the wrong idea.
Yeah, I get your intentions, but so you touched a little bit on advice for aspiring authors. Is there anything else that you'd like to throw out there?
It really all comes back to never giving up. And if you can give up, then maybe writing isn't for you, which seems a little harsh, but every writer I know, whether they're self published, traditional, it really is a matter of just never giving up. And no matter what feedback you get or critique you get, never let anybody take your writing from you. That's one of the most heartbreaking things I've seen is someone goes to a conference and they get feedback or they get rejected and they stop writing. And never let anyone take your writing from you. It's heartbreaking when that happens. So I watch those people sometimes like come back from that, like slowly over time. They'll start to write again. I'm like, yeah, if you're again, you can't quit it usually. If you're called to do it, it's almost a compulsion, which I think is what the word Shauna McGuire uses. Like you sort of can't quit writing if you're meant to be a writer. So never let anyone take it away from you.
I love that. And it's so true. I read something once that was like there's storytellers and there's writers. You know, and like you storytellers can't ever stop writing and telling stories, and then writers they write it just not just because, but it's not the same passion.
Yeah, and I think there's so many, and we could talk about this for hours, but you know, passion doesn't necessarily mean success, right? You still have to learn craft, you still have to learn, and then of course, when you're getting into publishing, then there's the whole commercial side of it. You know, Darkman's a good example. You might have a great book, it might be a great concept, it might be the book of your heart, but the market may not want it right now. Because ultimately, publishing is someone saying, can I make money off this book? Right? It's not just a matter, is it good? Is it interesting? Is it all the things that you think about when you think about writing? Someone is asking, can I make money off this? And the simple truth of the matter is, it may not at this time, or it may not fit. So you do have to take all those things into consideration when you go out into the publishing world. But at the same time, it is your work, it is your book, and believing in it and standing by it is so incredibly crucial.
I feel like you've dug inside my brain and stirred everything up, and I feel like really hopeful and inspired right now. This has been awesome.
That's great.
Where can listeners find out more about you, your work, all of that good stuff?
I'm all over social media, though I'm terrible at TikTok. I can't really dance or anything. I'm not great on video. But you can find out anything. You just go out and do an internet search for me. But you can also go to davidslayton.com. That's my website. Just don't forget the R. Or if you just Google David Slayton books, I should pop right up. That has a summary for all of my stuff, a little bit more about me. But you can also just reach out to me follow me on anything. I'm on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all of it. I'm not active on X for obvious reasons, but I do occasionally pop in or something. But I keep the account just so no one takes it. But it's not the best place to find me.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. Like I said, this has been awesome. I feel very revitalized right now.
Well, that's awesome. I'm so glad I could do that. That makes me happy, sincerely. Like being able to inspire and encourage other writers is one of the perks of getting to do this.
Well, thank you so much, and I hope that we can do it again. And I am looking forward to reading Silent Paths. I will be sitting here twiddling my thumbs, ready to cheer Seth on and Rafe and just all of that good stuff.
I hope you like it. I'm really proud of it.
As you should be.
Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week with more Right Here, Right Queer.